Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. Today I am sharing 3 more dinner recipes with you, and they are all very easy to make. The first recipe is for meatloaf. I found this recipe on Pinterest and it caught my eye because it uses some ingredients that aren't in typical meatloaf recipes, and it has very few ingredients as well. So to begin with, I'm just taking 2 eggs and scrambling them into a bowl. Anytime I'm making a dish with ground beef, I try to limit as much as possible how much I'm manipulating the meat because it can make it a lot tougher. So I went ahead and beat those 2 eggs, and then I'm going to add that into the bowl with 1 pound of ground beef. And then to that, 1/4 cup of ketchup. And then we're going to add in a box of stuffing. So you can use any flavor that you want. I just used a chicken stuffing. And then we're also going to add in about 1/2 cup of water. Now the recipe I will have linked in the description box below says that you can add more water if needed, but 1/2 cup was perfectly good for me. And so now you're just going to get in there with your hands. It's just the best way to do it, and mix everything together. Again, I'm only going to mix this until it is combined because I don't want to overwork the ground beef. Now we're just going to put the mixture into a pan. Normally this would be cooked in a loaf pan, but I just realized that I don't have one. So I just did mine in an 8x8 square pan, and it worked out perfectly. And honestly, I like this because it cooked so evenly. Sometimes when you have it in a loaf pan, you know, the outside's going to cook a lot quicker than the inside because it's a lot thicker. But having this spread out, it cooked very evenly and a lot quicker. Right, spoiler alert, this was hands down the best meatloaf I've ever had. You have to try this recipe. Now for the topping, I'm just going to combine together some ketchup with some barbecue sauce. This was actually one of the suggestions in the recipe that I found online. You can do just ketchup if you like, but I thought the addition of the barbecue sauce sounded really good because it has that sweetness to it, and the flavor was absolutely amazing. One thing I did change though is I did kind of double the amount that it called for because this is one of my favorite parts. So I ended up, after I stirred this together, I added a little bit more ketchup and barbecue sauce because I realized that it wasn't going to be enough to how we like our meatloaf. So now you're just going to add that over the top, and then this is going to go into a 350-degree oven that has been preheated, and it will cook anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes. Mine only took about 45 minutes, again, because I didn't use a loaf pan and it was a lot thinner, but you just want to check for your internal temperature to be at 165 degrees, and then you know that it is done. So this is what the meatloaf looks like when it comes out of the oven, and we just served it with some mashed potatoes and some green beans. So this next recipe is for a baked Caesar chicken. We used to make this all the time, and it had been so long since we had it. But this evening I wasn't feeling the best, so I wanted to do something that would be really quick and easy to make. So all you're going to do is start out by combining some Caesar dressing. You want to use your favorite here. I love the Ken's Caesar dressing. It just has such a great flavor to it. And so you're going to have 1 cup of Caesar dressing to a 1/2 cup of sour cream, and then stir that together. Now I definitely could have kicked this back on the amount because I'm only doing 2 chicken breasts and the original recipe calls for 4, but I knew that I wanted to add like an extra amount of sauce on it because we serve this over pasta, so I like to have that extra dressing in there with the chicken so that way I can combine it with the pasta once it's done cooking. But I definitely still did not need this amount. So you're just going to put that over your chicken breast, and then you're going to top it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Again, I'm putting a hefty amount here because we wanted to serve it over pasta, but if you weren't doing that, you could scale this back. You just need enough just to cover each chicken breast evenly. Also, because I'm only doing 2 chicken breasts, I just put this into a pie plate, but if you're doing all 4, you can just use like a 13x9-inch pan. It makes it really simple. And then this is going to go into a 375-degree oven until the chicken is cooked, and this will cook to 165 degrees. The last recipe that I'm sharing in this video is for a slow cooker braised short ribs. So kind of funny story here. My husband and I have started to get into watching different cooking competition shows together. And recently we were watching a show and he said, oh my goodness, I want short ribs. So I had never made them, nor had I ever had them, but they were super easy to make. I was a little intimidated at first because I thought that it would be a lot more involved, but it was really quick and easy. So all I'm doing here is putting salt and pepper on all sides of the short ribs, and then we're going to sear them in a hot pan before putting them in the slow cooker. So I did put a little bit of vegetable oil into my pan when I was heating it up, just so that way nothing would stick. But as you can see, some of these pieces of short rib do have a lot of fat to them. So the side that has a lot of fat on one of like the bigger ones wasn't browning as much as I'd like it to, but all the other sides did, like where it's actually like the meat hitting the pan got a nice sear to it. So you definitely don't want to skip this step. It's the only like prep step that you have to do before throwing it in the crock pot. But this is going to add a lot of flavor to the dish. So if you can, I wouldn't skip this. You could technically skip it, but if you have the time just to give a sear to all 4 of the sides, it's going to add a lot of flavor. So then I went ahead and removed them from the pan into my crock pot, and now I'm just going to add in some beef broth. And then the recipe calls for Worcestershire sauce, which I could not believe, but I was out of. So I was Googling like different things that you could substitute. One thing was soy sauce. So I added in some soy sauce, and then I actually added in a little bit of A1, like steak sauce, because my husband, when he was trying to help me come up with something to use other than Worcestershire, saw the A1 and he's like, oh, that would be really good. And it was. It added a lot of good flavor to it. So if you have the Worcestershire, you can use it here. If not, you can definitely improvise. There are many different substitutes when you Google it. You just want to have kind of like that umami flavor that the Worcestershire has, or that meaty flavor. Then I'm also going to sprinkle in some onion powder and some garlic powder, kind of toss everything around, and then this is going to cook in the crock pot on low for about 6 to 8 hours. About halfway through, I did flip them over so that way they were cooking evenly, but other than that, it's one of those like set it and forget it dishes, which was really nice. So I'm really curious if any of you enjoy watching cooking shows or like the competition cooking shows, and if so, please let me know in the comments below which one your favorite is and if it's inspired you to make any dishes that you normally wouldn't make. So I'm going to show you here in just a minute. You're going to see what it looks like when it's done cooking. The meat is literally falling off of the bone. So I just went ahead and separated the meat out from the fattier pieces and then served it over some mashed potatoes. I did also take that liquid and I did a cornstarch slurry and heated it up on my stove in just a small sauce pot, and that made like the gravy that went over it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed seeing these recipes. If you make any of them, please let me know. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you go if you're new here, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.